Amen. Turn over to page number 174 for our hymn tonight. And my good friend Tom Wilson here tonight better explain to him, as well as somebody who might be tuning in online first time. We do History of the Hymns on Wednesday night. Try to trace back to some of our forefathers and foremothers, I guess, that wrote all these wonderful hymns and where they came from. This particular one's from 1864, My Jesus, I Love Thee. And you see the name there on the left-hand side. That's the man who wrote the lyrics. How many of you like a good mystery? Raise your hand. Oh, about everybody. This song has a mystery about it, and I'll explain here in just a moment. I'm reading tonight from the book Then Sings My Soul, 150, The World's Greatest Hymn Stories by Robert J. Morgan, and over on page 151, he says this about this old hymn. The young people of today are utterly desolate and disorderly. Famed the old preacher of the faith, Martin Luther, in the 16th century. The philosopher Plato agreed. The youth are rebellious, pleasure-seeking, and irresponsible, he wrote. They have no respect for their elders, Socrates complained. Children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter. The 6,000-year-old Egyptian tomb bears this inscription: We live in a decadent age. Young people no longer respect their parents. They are rude and impatient. They inhabit taverns and have no self-control. The next time you think the modern generation is going from bad to worse, remember that God always has a rich handful of teenage heroes ready to change the world. In Bible times, we read of Joseph, the dreamer, Daniel in Babylon, David, the giant killer, and even young Mary, who was the earthly mother of the Lord Jesus Christ, probably a teenager, some believe. As a teenager, Charles Spurgeon preached to great crowds, but when they referred to his youthfulness, he replied, Never mind my age, think of the Lord Jesus and his preciousness. In our own day, we're deeply moved by young people like 17-year-old Cassie Bernal of Littleton, Colorado, who was shot for her faith during the Columbine tragedy. Some of the greatest hymns were written by young adults. Isaac Watts wrote most of his most memorable hymns at the age of 19. When poet John Milton was 15, he wrote the well-known Let Us With a Gladsome Mind. The hymn Work, for the Night is Coming was written by an 18-year-old, and the hymn of deep devotion, My Jesus, I Love Thee, was written by William Ralph Featherston at the age of 16, and that's where the mystery kind of begins. Featherston was born July 28, 1846 in Montreal, Canada. He died in the same city 26 years later. His family attended the Wesleyan Methodist Church, and it seems likely that William wrote this hymn as a poem celebrating his conversion to Christ. Reportedly, he sent this poem, the lyrics to this song, to an aunt living in California, and somehow it was published as an anonymous hymn in a British hymnal in 1864, and very little else is known about the origin of either this songwriter, Mr. Featherston, or the hymn, or its author, but that's all right. It's just enough that God can change the world through anyone, regardless of age, who will say, My Jesus, I love thee. I know that thou art mine. For all the follies of sin, I resign. And you notice over on the right-hand side of your page on the hymnal there on 174, a man by the name of Adrian J. Gordon. Now, he was one of those troublemaking Baptist preachers. And somehow he ended up with this poem written by Mr. Featherstone. Isn't it interesting that these people never met each other on that page? The one who wrote the lyrics and the one, they never met each other. Probably didn't even know each other. And, you know, it just shows how God can get in the midst of things and create some beautiful music and some beautiful inspiration for us all. But Mr. Gordon, I found out when I did some research on him He lived till the late 1800s. And one of his main missions as a pastor was to write a publication that came out, besides, of course, preaching the gospel and pastoring a church. But he wrote about how we can pray for healing, whether it be physical healing or emotional or whatever. He wrote a great work on that and is best known for that. And when I dug into that a little deeper, I found out that one of his biggest challenges was he had to write about that in a proper biblical way and not some of the quote unquote healing that you see on TV from some of these people that don't know what's going on. So the Lord really used a lot of people. Mr. Featherston, his aunt that he sent the poem to in California, and then this preacher named Gordon. So I just love the sentiment of this old hymn, and you've got your page open there. Just sing it with me as best you can. My Jesus, I love thee. My Jesus, I love thee. I know thou art mine. For thee all the follies of sin I resign. My gracious Redeemer, my Savior art thou. If ever I love thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. I love thee because thou hast first loved me and purchased my pardon on Calvary's tree. I love thee for wearing the thorns on thy brow. If ever I love thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. I'll love thee in life, I will love thee in death, and praise thee as long as thou lendest me breath, and say when the death dew light cold on my brow, if ever I love thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. In mansions of glory and endless delight, I'll ever adore thee in heaven so bright. I'll sing with the glittering crown on my brow, if